Honorable Mbidde speaks like President Kagame, same words and so on. These ones were denationalized, then they bring the history, and so then he says, why would Rwanda be interested?
First of all, let us, I think we need to identify why would anybody called President Kagame be interested in what takes place within the vicinity of Eastern Congo. And I think that has been discussed a bit. Probably that would inform us the correct answer, despite any reports practicable. Number two, there is a problem with the current crop of leaderships, particularly when it comes to citizenships of countries. And this definitely will now answer the question as to whether the M23 are actually Congolese. Current leaders definitely believe almost axiomatically in the boundaries that were drawn by colonialists.
It's a daytime show.
They definitely have.
Go on.
Oscar, you will need to protect me because
against Namfuka.
So yes, they have fundamental belief in the boundaries drawn by colonialists without accompanying it with beliefs in the decisions that were taken during the day when such boundaries were being drawn. A case in point, for example, even my brother Samuju here has been describing something to do with Kinyarwanda in Uganda. When you look at the British Protected Persons Act 1934, particularly the schedule, it generates that the principle, and lawyers here would also agree with me, there are majorly two general principles of citizenship. Yes. Yes, there are many. There are two major international principles on citizenship that would determine citizenship by birth. It is either jus sanguinis, something that relates to your parents, despite whether you are born in a country or not, you would be regarded as a citizen by birth. And the jus soli, that where you are born is where you are a citizen by birth. Now, the British Protected Persons Order, 1934, clearly gave a distinction to the extent that all protected persons within the territories of British colonies would, going forward after the 1934 decision, be citizens by birth, basing on the principle of jus soli, that where you are born is where you are a citizen by birth. So anybody amending such along the way, you are definitely now infringing on the inalienable, otherwise fundamental human rights.
Where are we going with this discussion?
So, where we are going, it's a very good line, because it gives the credence to whether or not persons born in a country can ultimately be regarded non-nationals of that country, simply because there is a change of government. So in Congo, yes, in Congo, this was cemented by the 1960 constitution, because we have got clusters of Kinyarwanda speakers in Congo. The first cluster for me I would look at would be the cluster at boundary demarcation, where physical lands, pieces of land, were carved out of the former Rwanda kingdom, and definitely then choreographed into what was referred to now as the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, such people obviously will be speaking their original language from the kingdom, but generally established under what has been created as the DRC. So those cannot be referred to as non-nationals, as Rwandese. So that is number two. Number one,
Rwandans.
Yes. Number two, when you look at the agreements that took place at the time, for example, the Berlin Conference of 1884-85, it gave clear decisions on what actually their own territories would do. So the territories that were designed to deliver, for example, agricultural services, mining and what, that required labor, decisions were taken that labor importations would definitely ensue into the DRC. And I think that was King Leopold II or something, so he was allowed by 1925 to import laborers. So people came from Rwanda, people came from Burundi. They are all Kinyarwanda speakers. That is 1925. Now that is in addition to those that were the subject of boundary demarcation. So that is now number two. Now those people From 1925 to date, how old would such a person be if they were alive to date? So we are dealing with the offsprings of such people. Now, the 1960 Constitution of Congo cemented it. They even attempted to do certification, identification of persons, and generally declared all of them citizens of the Democratic Republic of Congo. But just like Honorable Semju was saying, we know that historically we would have, of course, some cataclysms of disconnect between the Banyarwanda, Kinyarwanda speakers of the time, and of course some of the the tribes of the day, the Banyanga, the Bahunde. They would once in a while also develop some bit of cataclysm amongst themselves. But by the period of 1918 and 1931, an agreement was even arrived at by the colonial leaders of the time to appoint Banyarwanda chiefs in all, and what was actually the Masisi area of the time, which was definitely then divided into the Kivu areas. So what explains the activity of handing over leadership to Kinyarwanda speaking chiefs? It is because the population is there, had the Kinyarwanda speaking entities. So what the leaders need to do, instead of course, the current president Tshisekedi telling us that these are not Congolese, look at what the former governments also had done. When Kabila entered into an agreement with the NCD, and I had the honorable minister also speaking about it, the NCD that mysteriously then, of course, when they entered an agreement, it was on March 23rd, 2009, where they definitely then get the M23 nomenclature of their own outfit today. That is an agreement that was signed between the Congolese government and the Congolese. The Congolese that were now, because some of the groups, by the way, that emanated, that I would not say were the subject of government, were the Mai Mai. Those ones now were the offsprings of the disagreement, disunity within and among us populations that again culminated into fighting forces. But also substantive chiefs that would be interested in mining areas would also develop some youth brigades of some sort that mysteriously culminated into fighting forces. So there is a multiplicity of forces, and the minister has just explained. What we are dealing with now is a front. And this front has the capacity to take over government. What they actually are waiting on and fear is, first of all, the backlash of the international community, and the backlash that would emanate from those that already have a multiplicity of concessions for minerals. Interests. So the penny holders, Belgium, France, and companies that come from Canada, and because the Congo really, it is a management problem. Recently, when the president of the DRC thought that actually he had to handle now serious work in the army, he promoted the officers and even deployed some in the northern province. And one of those deployed was Chisembo, until he was actually tapped and told that no, actually General Chisembo died 11 years ago. So he promoted and deployed a dead soldier. And for me, promoted to dead RDC. Yes.
Their microphones are off. You continue.
So there is a mismanagement also.
Both Semujana and his microphone.
Even deployed to dead RDC.
Yes. So there is substantial mismanagement of the army.
No one has heard you, both.
There is because see, the United States has been giving $1 billion per year for the development and professionalization of the Congolese army. I am sure, of course, with the arrival of Trump, that might have to change a bit.
Yeah.
But even then, you would look at a situation where the man now uses and utilizes the FDLR, suspected of having committed a genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda in 1994, but uses them as a mercenary force, and those are now children. Yes, offsprings. But it is now, you see, genocide, Mr. Semju, is an ideology. It can actually be inherited. It is ideological in nature. It is not just a decision.
It is true.
No,
on this one.
I'm not addressing them as to whether or not they are culpable of the crimes, but I'm telling you that their settlement in Congo is the subject of the historicity of their parents and how they conducted each other in Rwanda. So when you use them as a mercenary force to assist you in solving a few of the problems that you feel you have with your own people, then they become, first of all, empowered. Two, the ideology now gets further cemented. And three, it becomes now a scare against the neighboring countries where they have got history of activism. Now, that is where the interest would have to be in terms of Rwanda. So I can safely tell you, in Uganda, there is a difference, by the way. The otherwise would have been Banyamulenge of Congo DRC, the Mpororo, Chisolo, and Ntungamo people in Uganda. For them, they are citizens of Uganda by birth. They are considered as indigenous persons. In fact, in the constitution, when you look at the clarity of description, they are the Banyarwanda under the third schedule. The rest of the Banyarwanda in Uganda are not considered because they skedaddled from the principle of jus soli, and that is what we are intending to ameliorate here in Uganda. Yes.
Lydia.